Yes, lads, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're taking a look at another set of custom tactics. This week we're looking at the 4-3-2-1 and it is game changing. Let's get into them. So diving right into the defensive tactics, we leave this unbalanced. I have used press after possession loss and constant pressure when chasing a game, and it is super effective in applying that little bit of extra pressure. But because of the way stamina decays and how it affects your player positioning now, as well as the opposition player positioning, I recommend you just leave that unbalanced. You're literally going to just smash your team if you're playing anyone that is half decent in the game. If you put on constant pressure now, most people can counter it if they're good enough. The defensive width, we have experimented anywhere from 45 to 50. I leave it on 50, but if you want it a bit more tighter in the middle, I recommend you go 45. And then if you want, a bit more of a balanced approach, and you've got a bit of your team sits at like a fairly neutral point, then I recommend going with 50. The depth, I played with 55. It's a bit negative for me in the sense that it's not too deep, but I like to press a bit higher. So 60. If you're struggling to defend and those over the top through balls are killing you, I would drop it down to about 55 on the depth just to help with defending those over the tops and the driven through balls. But 60 for me, because I feel quite comfortable. The offensive tactics, we leave the build-up play on balanced, nothing else, and then direct passing. These two are bread and butter. Every single tactic I use at the moment has this on. I have started experimenting a little bit with forward runs, but it doesn't really suit my style. The way the direct passing works and pushing players back into their box, and it keeps the opposition pinned back, especially when you're holding possession. I think it's just the best one to use at the moment. And the offensive width I leave on 50. Players in the box, we whack this up to 7. This will help with one of our centre mids getting involved with the attack. The most important part of this formation are the tactics for the way it sets up, but we'll get into that in a second. And the corners we have on 1, free kicks we have on 1 to avoid conceding any unnecessary counter attacks from our own set pieces. So going into the instructions, what makes this formation so special is that it attacks in the 4-3-2-1, as you see on your screen. We do create a little bit of width in our own way, but I'll show you in a second. But it defends in a 4-4-2, and that's why you see a lot of people on the pro scene and the higher, the higher finishing players using this formation. We're going to dive into those tactics now. So my two forwards that will stay forward. So I've got AYYLP, who's my out-and-out striker. He is on stay forward. Neymar on also stay forward, and we don't put anything else on him at all. You just leave it on stay forward. These two will just stay up top, and they'll form like a 2-striker formation up top. And then on the right forward, we've got JJ, who is on comeback on defense. That is all. You can swap this around, so your left forward could be comeback on defense, and your right forward could be stay up top, but you will need to switch around the midfield just so it sits the same way when you're defending. So we go into our midfield. We've got Thiago and Vieira on stay back while attacking and cover center. Very important that you put cover and center on your two more defensively minded midfielders, and they will push to obviously the center of the pitch. Mahrez, who is more of a forward, is a bit of a weird one to have in midfield. You have get into the box for crosses and cover wing. So as you can see, it's setting up at the moment. You've got Mahrez, who pushes out to the left, so he plays more like when you're defending, more of a left mid. And then you've got Vieira and Thiago, who sit in the middle. They play like 2 centre mids. And then you've got JJ or Kocha, who comes back on defense, and then he slots in almost a right mid. So you can see it sets up when you're defending in a 4-4-2. You've got Mahrez, Vieira, Thiago, and JJ across the midfield, giving you that 4-bank, helping you to defend wide and centrally. And it's amazing. It honestly like cleans up so well. The only time you might get caught out is in transition. So, but if you missed your shot and it goes out for a goal kick, your team will just set in a 4-4-2, and it's incredible. The centre backs we leave on stay back while attacking. We don't touch them because if you touch them, you're a bit of a psychopath. And then goalkeeper is comes for crosses and sweeper keeper, the standard. If you're not using this, just chuck it on. It won't change too much of your game, but you know, it might help now and again. Another important feature for this team is the fullbacks. So the formation without the fullbacks can be a bit narrow and a bit predictable. So we've got one more defensively minded fullback in Kyle Walker, who's on stay back while attacking, but we have him on overlap still. So if you want to toggle it up and left on the D-pad, we can. But for the most part, he will stay back. And then you've got Robertson, who's a bit more gifted going forward. We just have him on overlap and balanced. And what he'll do is push up that left-hand side and create an overload essentially, and give you an out ball in a wide position, which is very important in spreading the play in this, because if without it, I don't think you can create that much width and you become quite predictable. So you want someone that stays back, that is quite defensive, like a Kyle Walker, someone who's very solid, someone who can put a tackle in. And then your man that's going forward, you want him to be a bit more gifted, you know, like a Ferland Mendy or like Capdevia, you know, can provide some goals, can provide some assists. Passing is probably one of the more key stats you want to be looking at for this guy. Obviously, defending is important for a fullback, but make sure they got good passing, because they are going to get lots of opportunities at the byline to provide some passes. The two central midfielders, I recommend you have one out-and-out CDM and then have a creative man. I've used players like Thiago Alcantara, who's my favorite at the moment because he has 5-star skills. But then you've got players like Modric, you know the type of player, the player that can, it picks up the ball, they're great with the ball at their feet, they can put a tackle in when they need to, but they can also score and assist. And I do like to get him involved in the game. And Mahrez is just another attacker. The 4-3-2-1 has literally changed the game for me. It's the best formation, in my opinion, in FIFA 23 so far, especially on this patch. I do definitely recommend you have some other formations in your arsenal, just because sometimes you do struggle to break the odd opponent down with any formations. So tap, click, punch, bite, the link here for another tactics video. Jeez.